6,000 miles from home, a young woman vanishes mysteriously, leaving no trace. Her desperate family will embark on a relentless battle to find their beloved daughter. Thus begins a gripping and heart-wrenching search that would lead investigators to the darkest depths of a heinous criminal. My name is Nick, this is Crime Dog, and we are back. It's a crisp morning in early May of the year 2000, when Lucie Blackman bids farewell to her serene abode, nestled in a tranquil street of Kent, England. A mere 21 years old, she yearns to explore and embrace the unknown wonders of the world, before settling into the rigours of adulthood. Lucie, having traversed the skies as an air hostess for British Airways, already possesses a wealth of travel experience. However, the demands of constant flying had drained her spirit, compelling her to abandon her airborne career. As the new millennium unfurls its wings, Lucie and her best friend Louise Phillips hatch a daring plan. They both sought to break free from the chains of their conventional lives and embark on an exhilarating journey. The opportunity presented itself in the form of a bold trip to Japan, a chance to earn substantial sums of money and alleviate the weight of debt that burdened Lucie's shoulders. In her short life, she'd already racked up £7,000 worth of credit card debt. Tokyo, the vibrant and bustling metropolis, illuminated by the dazzling glow of neon lights, would be Lucie's chosen destination, a stark contrast to her idyllic home in rural England. Lucie and Louise gravitate naturally to Roppongi, a vivacious district pulsating with life. This vibrant enclave, teeming with hundreds of bars and clubs, offers a wealth of opportunities for foreign girls seeking employment. Swiftly, Lucie reaches out to her family, eagerly sharing the news of her newfound job at the Casablanca Club. Her loved ones, understandably concerned, raise apprehensions about her chosen occupation. However, Lucie reassures them that her role as a hostess merely involved in engaging in conversation and accompanying patrons for drinks, an innocent gesture of companionship for which she was compensated, according to the number of clients she entertained. In essence, she likened her position to that of a white geisha, men relishing in the prestige of being seen with a captivating Western woman. Yet she emphasised that her work bore no connection to the illicit world of prostitution. Lucie would describe her role as listening attentively to Japanese men, enjoying their discussions on mundane topics. In her eyes, it resembled her previous occupation as an air hostess, but without the lofty altitudes that accompanied it. Part of Lucie's responsibilities entailed meeting clients for dinner dates, known as dohans, before commencing her evening shift. These dohans served as a means to entertain patrons over a meal, enticing them to accompany the hostess to the club. The threat of termination loomed over the girls if they failed to arrange an ample number of these dinner engagements, urging them to diligently secure dohans to sustain their employment. All sounds a little bit dodgy to me. Within the club, a scoreboard ranked the hostesses based on their performance. It was a constant reminder of who was thriving and who was struggling. Lucie at the time found herself grappling with anxiety as her position on the scoreboard faltered. In the dimly lit corners of the club, Lucie and her fellow hostesses worked under the watchful gaze of the mama-san, a vigilant guardian tasked with monitoring their interactions, as well as the individuals they ushered into the establishment. A mere 8 weeks had passed since Lucie's arrival in Tokyo, when she readied herself to meet a customer who she'd met in the club. They had agreed to rendezvous for a coffee, but Lucie made it clear she intended to spend no more than an hour with him. Shortly before 5 p.m, Lucie dials Louise's number, sharing with her news of her date. A scorching afternoon had compelled the man to drive towards the coast. She calls once again around 6:45, informing Louise that she was on her way back, expressing contentment with her time spent, and revealing that her companion had gifted her a mobile phone. The girls make plans to spend the evening together, with Lucie assuring Louise that she would return by 8 o'clock. Little did Louise realise that the words they had just exchanged would be their last. Lucie never showed up that evening, but the next day Louise receives a phone call. It's a Japanese man calling himself Akira Tagaki. He tells Louise that Lucie is fine, but has joined a newfound religious group and would not be returning home. Louise requests to speak with Lucie, but the man refuses, eventually hanging up. Back home in Kent, Lucie's mother is packing a parcel destined for her daughter in Japan when the phone rings. On the other end of the line, a distraught Louise sobbing uncontrollably. She informs Lucie's mum that she has no idea where her daughter is. On hearing the news, Lucie's sister, Sophie Blackman, just 20 years old, jumps on the first plane to Tokyo, determined to find her sister and bring her home. She is joined by Jamie, Lucie's former boyfriend. Within 24 hours, they arrive in the sprawling expanse of Tokyo, stunned by the daunting challenge that lay ahead, locating Lucie amidst the city's vastness. Yet even more disheartening than the labyrinth streets was the indifferent stance assumed by the Japanese authorities. They seemed little concerned by Lucie's disappearance, and a week elapses yielding no fresh leads, the police dismissing their concerns with callous nonchalance, proclaiming that Lucie, being over 21 years old, possessed the liberty to vanish if she so desired. Sophie, undeterred, manages to secure her sister's classification as a missing person, albeit through a modest postcard buried amidst countless others within an extensive file. However, the arrival of publicity would soon breathe much needed urgency into the investigation, when British journalists chance upon a brief article about Lucie in a Japanese newspaper. The initial narrative seemed inconspicuous, recounting the disappearance of an unnamed 21-year-old British girl and her family's growing distress. Yet within a matter of days, the story had hit the headlines. Lucie's father Tim arrives in Tokyo, intent on stoking the flames of press attention. The day after his arrival, he holds a press conference, carried by prime time and news channels. He rejects suggestions his daughter may have run away to escape credit card debts, or that she would have willingly joined a cult. They follow this up with the distribution of 30,000 posters in Tokyo. The family's tenacious press campaign garners support from Tokyo's tight-knit expat community, who rally behind their cause. Tim establishes an HQ with a dedicated hotline. The Blackman family then offer a £9,500 reward for Lucie's return, which is increased to £100,000 by an anonymous businessman. The Blackmans also enlist the aid of prominent figures, leveraging their influence to amplify the urgency of the situation. Tim persuades then Prime Minister Tony Blair to intercede on their behalf with the Japanese government, while Richard Branson lends his voice to a televised appeal, exerting added pressure on the Japanese authorities. As a result, the Japanese police begrudgingly allocate additional resources to the investigation, deploying a force of 80 officers in the search for Lucie. However, if the family anticipated a flow of information and insights from the detectives, they were met with disappointment. Meanwhile, Lucie's mother, growing increasingly anxious, is concerned that the Japanese authorities are neglecting crucial leads, allowing precious time to slip away. Could they not track her daughter's whereabouts using her mobile phone, or examine surveillance footage from nearby cameras? The police offer no satisfactory response, leaving her adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Then, in the sweltering heat of August, as the search enters its second agonizing month, the police receive a letter, written in English, bearing Lucie's signature. Quote, "I am doing what I want, so please leave me alone." Though the signature proved to be a crude forgery, the letter infused the family with a glimmer of hope that Lucie was still alive, albeit being held captive against her will. Detectives therefore find themselves no closer to tracking down Lucie or apprehending her abductor. Her anguished mother therefore turns to a British private detective in a final act of desperation. His first task involves delving deep into the heart of the club. He viewed the club as the nexus of the investigation, a place where Lucie may have vanished in the company of a client. Surely within its walls, someone would recall the man's face. Did anyone else know him? What information could be gleaned from the club Mama-san? It was during this pursuit that a hostess named Melissa came forward, bravely recounting her encounters with Lucie and describing a man she had observed at the club days before the fateful disappearance. Armed with Melissa's accounts, the tenacious private detective summons the aid of his former Scotland Yard colleagues, engaging the expertise of their photo imaging unit to reconstruct a composite image based on Melissa's vivid recollection. The former detective travels from club to club, armed with the composite, though the suspect would elude immediate identification. The detective's focus on the nightclub scene proves astute. Disturbing reports begin to flood into the Blackman's hotline, as numerous Western girls employed in Roppongi's hostess bars begin to recount harrowing encounters with the same man. These accounts form a haunting pattern, dates or dohans that transform into nightmares of drugging and assault. Club managers themselves share chilling anecdotes, detailing instances where their girls returned days later, visibly sick and traumatized, victims of unspeakable violence. Shockingly, when some club managers had sought assistance from police, they were met with apathy and indifference. A clear modus operandi emerges. This well-dressed, seemingly affluent individual, fluent in English and exuding charm, was preying on vulnerable young women, primarily those working as hostesses in that area. Their lack lack of Japanese language proficiency and their marginalized status rendered them silent victims. The narratives resonate deeply, for they mirror the very scenario that Lucie herself may have encountered in her puzzling disappearance. Determined to leave no stone unturned, Lucie's family relay all information to the Japanese police, providing them with the crucial lead that they desperately need. By October, a prime suspect has emerged: Joji Obara, a wealthy playboy, already facing charges for the assault of 5 women working as hostesses. The revelations that follow paint a bone-chilling portrait of a predator whose abominable crimes have seemingly remained concealed for over a decade. The investigation unearths a trove of videos in Obara's possession, depicting him engaging in sexual acts with unconscious, drugged victims. However, the pivotal question looms: would Obara hold the key to unlocking the mystery surrounding Lucie's disappearance? Born to a Korean immigrant father who amassed great wealth through property and gambling, Obara enjoyed a privileged upbringing. Educated at university, he cultivated an impeccable command of the English language. With an array of luxury cars and multiple family apartments, he personified the image of a carefree hedonist, traversing the club circuit with familiarity. Yet Obara shrouded his true identity behind a veil of secrecy, adopting false names and meticulously avoiding leaving any trace. Obara had perfected a sinister routine. He would charm unsuspecting hostesses within the confines of the club, enticing them with promises of a lavish date or a tantalizing Dohan experience. Behind the facade of opulence, he wielded a dark purpose. Once ensnared, he would whisk these young women away in a luxury vehicle, showering them with gifts as a prelude to his true intentions. And then with a chilling shift, his real face emerged. His method was cruel in its simplicity. Drawing them into his apartment, he would administer substances that rendered his victims unconscious, stripping them bare and subjecting them to unspeakable acts of violation. He took perverse pleasure in documenting his heinous deeds, amassing a grotesque collection of over 200 tapes, each bearing witness to his monstrous crimes. Detectives eager to extract answers regarding Lucie's disappearance relentlessly interrogate Obara. Initially, he vehemently denies ever crossing paths with her. However, after enduring 4 weeks in police custody, he admits to having met Lucie, but denies any involvement in her disappearance. Lucie's family, undeterred, returned to Japan, resolute in their pursuit of justice. Yet Obara remains reticent, refusing to disclose any further details to the authorities. With the search for Lucie entering its 5th agonizing month, the police hunger for additional clues. In a desperate bid for answers, Lucie's father, Tim, launches an international appeal, an impassioned plea that would yield critical results.
It's become apparent that we are very much in need of more information to come forward, and in particular we would like girls who used to work in the Roppongi who now have gone home. If they know of this man or whether they've experienced a similar abduction, it's vitally important that they come forward.
Among the responders, a man with vital new information, a revelation that would bolster the case against Obara. Halfway across the globe in Australia, a young man named Robert Finnegan heard Tim's plea. A profound sense of familiarity engulfs him. For 8 years prior, in 1992, he had been engaged to a vibrant young woman named Kurita Redgway. The details emerging from Japan. A serial attacker who preyed on drugged hostess victims struck a dissonant chord with him. Kurita, a budding actress at the tender age of 21, had ventured into hostess work in Tokyo to fund her studies. On a fateful Dohan with a customer, her life took a grim turn. Upon her return, she fell gravely ill, ultimately succumbing to liver failure a few days later. At the time, her death had been attributed to natural causes. How a 21-year-old dies from natural causes, I'll never know. Finnegan also harboured huge doubts. Drawing the connection between the 2 cases, investigators reignited their scrutiny of Kurita's untimely demise, unearthing damning evidence directly implicating Obara. Amongst the trove of videotapes discovered in Obara's lair, one depicted Kurita, unconscious and vulnerable upon his bed. Piece by excruciating piece, the puzzle begins to take shape. Following their encounter, Obara had led Kurita to one of his apartments, where he administered a drink laced with sedatives. Subsequently, he filmed his repulsive act on her, employing chloroform to maintain her sedated state. Unbeknownst to Obara, in lethal concentration, chloroform possessed toxic properties, sealing Kurita's tragic fate. Obara, already facing accusations of 5 horrendous assaults, now faces a much graver charge: the murder of a young hostess. The police had built a compelling case against him, but as the year 2000 drew to a close, they still lacked concrete evidence linking him to Lucie. January 2001 marks 6 months since Lucie's disappearance, and while her family in England clung desperately to the flicker of hope, Japan braced for a tragic revelation. In the bitter cold of early February, detectives are conducting a search of a seaside cave close to one of Obara's apartments when they make a morbid discovery. Nestled within, they unearth a series of buried packages, concealed just beneath the sand. They contain the dismembered remains of a human body, severed into 8 parts. The head, encased in concrete, bears traces of blonde hair. Dental records provide the confirmation they dreaded but needed. Lucie's shattered family returned to Japan once more, consumed by grief. Her father and sister visit the beach where her lifeless body was found, 7 long months after her initial vanishing.
Get the fuck out of here!
Jane, Lucie's mother, bears the heart-wrenching burden of bringing her daughter back home.
I have to sign documents to enable the body of my beloved daughter Lucie to be released so that I can take her home and arrange for her funeral to be carried out with the dignity she so deserves.
As Lucie was laid to rest, the Japanese police formally pressed charges against Obara. At this point, they had added 9 additional assault charges and the death of Kurita Ridgway to their case against Obara. In Japan, where the conviction rate for serious crimes was an astonishing 99.9%, owing mainly to the prevalence of confessions, the court proceedings appeared to be an open and shut case. However, in July 2001, Obara defiantly enters a plea of not guilty. As Lucie's anguished family sat in the courtroom, the harrowing details of her final hours unfurled. On July the 1st at around 4 p.m, Lucie sought out a man she had encountered at the bar. That man was Joji Obara. An hour later, she contacted her friend Louise, informing her that they were en route to the coast. It appeared that Obara had seduced Lucie. Later that afternoon, a Japanese couple would bear witness to Lucie's presence alongside Obara in the seaside resort. The police substantiate the sighting when they stumble upon a camera within Obara's apartment, containing a photo of Lucie taken on the beach. Scrutinizing the image, they meticulously reconstruct the precise location of both Lucie and Obara at that fateful moment, studying the tides and weather patterns. They could pinpoint the exact time Lucie occupied that spot. A thorough search of Obara's apartment ensues, leading to the discovery of several strands of blonde hair. In the early hours, Lucie's mother receives a distressing call. Urged to enter Lucie's bedroom, she was asked to collect fingerprints, nail clippings, and locks of Lucie's hair. DNA analysis of the samples sent by Jane reveal a genetic match to the blonde hair recovered from Obara's flat. On top of that, using mobile phone records, they also reveal that Lucie's final call to her friend Louise emanated from within Obara's apartment. Within the courtroom's somber confines, Obara finally admits to spending the day with Lucie. He acknowledges their shared meal at his apartment, but continues to assert that Lucie had departed alone. He suggests they indulged in a few drinks, claiming that Lucie had become intoxicated, presumably from drugs. At some juncture, he had summoned a fixer to collect her and safely transport her home. Conveniently, this fixer had since passed away, unable to confirm or deny Obara's story. Police, however, skillfully debunk Obara's narrative. It was revealed that he had impersonated Lucie, reaching out to her friend and falsely proclaiming her involvement in a religious cult. The apartment yielded draft copies of the deceitful letter, adorned with Lucie's forged signature. Despite mounting evidence, Obara adamantly maintains his innocence, and while it was indisputable that Lucie had been in Obara's company, had even ventured to certain locations with him, there existed no smoking gun, no irrefutable evidence, definitively linking him to the shocking fate that befell Lucie. The absence of DNA samples, be it semen or blood, impeded the conclusive identification of his direct involvement. Lucie's family, trapped in a harrowing limbo, could only wait patiently for the verdict. Yet before the judgment was rendered, Obara would extend an offer that would bitterly divide the family. An unexpected offer presented by Obara's legal team, relayed through Jane's second husband, became the conduits of an audacious proposal. There existed an assumption that Jane's spouse possessed the persuasive ability to sway her decisions to what was perceived as right. A voicemail message lingered on the answering machine.
We are expecting to talk with Mrs. Stella to talk about some huge amount of money, the 200,000 pounds. 200,000 pounds. The lawyer would like your wife accept this amount.
The sum being offered swelled from 200 to a staggering 454,000. Obara's money had already found acceptance from the women he had violated, yet the family of Kurita Ridgway had staunchly rejected his attempts to buy their silence. In the realm of Japanese criminal cases, it was not unheard of for an accused individual to dispense monetary compensation to their victims. Obara himself emphasized that this offering was not an admission of guilt. It was not an act of compensation, but rather a gesture of condolence, a hollow expression of sympathy, untainted by guilt or remorse. It never crossed Jane's mind to accept such an offer.
There's no way I would take any money ever, because I just think it's obscene.
Lucie's father, Tim, however, Jane's ex-husband, viewed the situation through a contrasting lens. He chose to accept the money, assured that this financial transaction would have no bearing on the case.
The idea of somebody offering what they're describing as condolence money, we would describe it over here as damages of some sort. You know, people get fined for their crimes, and maybe the fine goes to the state, or in some cases people receive damages for damages that have been perpetrated against them. You know, I don't understand why it's sort of such a complicated issue, really.
Tim, accompanied by Lucie's sister, returned to Tokyo in April 2007 for the verdict. As the court session commenced, the long-awaited announcement reverberated through the room, reaching Jane, Lucie's mother, who anxiously awaited the verdict from her home in Kent. The phone call from the British Embassy shattered the silence. After a grueling 6-year trial, the judgment was rendered. Joji Obara was acquitted of all charges pertaining to Lucie Blackman. The presiding judge deemed the evidence insufficient to establish his involvement in her tragic demise. However, Obara was not entirely absolved of guilt. He was convicted of 9 counts of assault and the death of Kurita Ridgway, receiving a sentence of life imprisonment. The case of Lucie Blackman could have easily dissolved into another cautionary tale, a tragic chronicle of a young woman who ventured from her suburban British abode, only to meet an untimely and heartbreaking end abroad. However, propelled by an unquenchable thirst for truth, Lucie's family went on the attack, unrelenting in their pursuit of answers. Their resolute determination ultimately led to the capture of a perilous and predatory criminal. In a peculiar twist of fate, Lucie became the beacon of justice for Kurita and the 6 other women involved in the trial, as well as the countless others who had suffered silently, yearning for their own semblance of retribution. Yet tragically, the Blackmans' quest for justice in their daughter's case remains an elusive and unresolved chapter. Let me know in the comments what you think, and subscribe so you won't miss out on any new Crime Dog content. It's a pleasure to be back. See you next time. Crime Dog out.